nice to have all of you here. My name is Lynn Davis. I am an associate professor here at El Paso Community College. This is become an annual event with us to have political debates here. We are very, very pleased to have as many candidates come as possible to come and talk to us about what they are interested in, why they're running, and in the offices they're running for. We're very excited about this. We have this morning 3 separate debates. We will begin this morning with our county commissioner race, and then we will have at 11, we will have the state representative race, and at 12, we will have the U.S. Congress race. And that one, all of them are very important, so if you can come back throughout the day to listen to those, it would be a really good thing for y'all to do. Students that are here, we'll do our best to keep it under the 50 minutes so that you guys can take off and go to class. And we also want to remind you to come back. If your professor has specific things for you to do, you probably ought to make sure those get done, passing around signage sheets, doing whatever you've been asked to do. Without any further ado, good morning. Getting seated, and hopefully we'll be able to begin now. This morning our county commissioner is place 3, which is, well, and I will let them tell you what part of the city that they're going to be representing. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to have each of the candidates allow themselves a minute to introduce themselves. Part of their introduction, and you guys keep them to this task, is to tell you why they are running for that particular seat. You know, they want to take it, so we want to know why they chose to run for that particular position. And so I'm going to begin with introductions this morning, and we've got, at the very beginning of the table, we have Rodolfo Rudy Goya. Oh, it's Vincent Perez, I'm sorry, he's going to shoot me. Okay. Oh, well, Vincent. Okay, we're out of alphabetical order. There we go. This is Vincent Perez, and then we have Dora, Oaxaca, and then Oaxaca. There you go. And then Mr. Chente, Quintanilla. And the 3 of them are running for county commissioner, and we'll start with Mr. Perez. Please introduce yourself and tell us why.
Thanks so much for attending this morning's debate. It's really good to see young people here attending and participating in the political process. My name is Vince Perez. I'm a candidate for County Commissioner Precinct 3. I'm the former communications director to Congressman Sylvester Reyes. I served in Washington, D.C. for 5 years as his communications director. I'm born and raised in El Paso, and I'm from this neighborhood. I graduated from Bel Air High School in 2000. And I'm actually the youngest candidate in the County Commissioner Precinct 3 race. I decided to run because I've always wanted to come back to El Paso. Unfortunately, not enough young people come back to the community. A lot of people go off to college and they never return and give back their talents to the communities. And that was one reason why I really wanted to come back and run. Being from this neighborhood, I really care about it a lot. My family still lives here. I wanted to come back and make a difference. And also wanted to do my best to encourage young people to participate in the process, because unfortunately too often times I think many of our elected officials focus only on the votes. So,
thank you. Thank you. Ms. Oaxaca.
Good morning, buenos dias. My name is Dora, Oaxaca, for the record. I'm from Socorro, and I'm very proud to be here amongst all of you. I am a local product of our university system. For my opponents, I am the one who has worked mostly with the community in order to achieve the needs of this precinct. The reason I'm running is very simple. I graduated from Socorro, I graduated from UTEP, I went over and I received my master's from University of Phoenix. My life is here, I'm not going anywhere. Like you, like many of you, you're here to gain that education and to gain that community experience to put you forward. I stand for one thing and only one thing, and it's equality of public services for all the people in Precinct 3. I'm very proud of my community record since I was in college. I was a mechista, was vice president of Mecha, Chicano movement. I've been very involved with a lot and many of the community leaders here in El Paso.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Quintanilla.
Good morning. It's great to be here in front of this community college group, young students that are getting involved in the political process. I am a former member of the community college board and have been instrumental in a lot of the development of this institution. I've been in public service for 47 years, and those 47 years have been great for me. I've been a community college board member, a water board member in Cornelio. I've been a state representative and an assistant superintendent for schools. So I love education, and one of my main goals is a state representative, which I still am. I work really well to bring a lot of funding to the community colleges, which the legislature just seems to love a lot. They always come back and do the funding that is proper for the growth of the community colleges. So it is great to be here back in this institution and hoping that the young students that we have now will get involved and continue to stay involved in the process.
Thank you, sir. Okay. This morning, now that we know our candidates, we will be asking questions. Student government has put together a couple of panelists who will be asking questions of our candidates. This morning, we have Mr. Aldo Lopez, who is an instructor here at El Paso Community College. Aldo, would you please tell everybody who you are? Just wave. There you go. And then we have Mr. Matthew Ramirez, who is a senator for student government. They will be asking questions of our candidates. Each candidate will get exactly 1 minute, well, 2 minutes to respond to the question. And we will go start at the end of the table at first and come down. Please do try to keep your answers. I do have my timekeeper working for me, but I'll also verbally tell you when the time is up, okay? All right, first question will go to Ms. Oaxaca.
Good morning. First question is, what would be your #1 priority as commissioner?
Well, my #1 priority as commissioner and as a constituent has been always to bring equality of public services. Just recently, to highlight some of the key accomplishments that I've had the opportunity to work with the community has been water issues. I've been very privileged and honored to work with many members of that community to bring water to Colonia Revolucion, Conquistador, over $5.3 million of water funding. #2 is electric. Just last week I received a text where we were able to achieve electricity for the first time. And let me tell you, it brings emotional tears to my eyes when I get a text from a mom and a single mother with her kids telling me, "Gracias, Dora, porque por usted tengo electricidad por primera vez." Those are issues that are to my heart. I am an emotional woman because I have a heart for this community. And not only that, I have a passion to ensure that not only that, but gas services. In 2 months, people from La Colonia, right between Clinton and Socorro, that have had 28 years, I helped organize and come together. They're going to have gas for the first time. Those are the issues of equality of public services that we need in that district in order to achieve and compete for economic development. The list is long. I can tell you that there's more quality of life, but a voice is together. I cannot do it alone. I do it with the leaders in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Quintanilla.
Same question?
Yes. Do you need to repeat?
Yes.
Well, I've got a question. Anyway, but one of my main priorities would be bring again, like I said, the overused word, which is quality of life, in the Lower Valley. People from the city really don't understand the needs of the Lower Valley and how much we have out there. We have, as perfectly said, the housing industry has yet to find what they have recently found as a valley. It has brought a lot of new housing to the areas in the Horizon City area, Socorro, San Elizario, and now it's moving on to Favors and Clan. So I hope we continue moving forward to bring more transparency to what is happening in the Lower Valley, what is needed, and those things that are needed. And of course, number one will be the budget. Create a budget that I can get involved, that I will be able to master and know very well.
Thank you, Mr. Quintanilla. Next question from Mr. Ramirez.
Oh, Mr. Perez.
Oh, no, yes, no, it'll come from. Oh, you didn't answer? You better answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, when I first decided to announce for office back in September, I did so because the current commissioner, Commissioner Willie Gonda, had more than 400 missed votes during his time when he was elected in 2008. And when our representatives don't show up for work, our community loses out on representation. So first and foremost, we need a commissioner who's, number one, willing to show up and work hard, but who has a commitment to the people. Something it is that I said about Commissioner Willie Gonda was the fact that he was a part-time representative. He spent $90,000 of his own wealth to get himself into office, but yet he had the worst attendance record. What does that say about our public servants and their willingness to represent the people? So first and foremost, we need somebody who can show up, do their homework, and work hard. Because this year, the state legislature cut $27 billion from the state budget. That's going to have a detrimental effect on counties, and there's a lot of pressure on local governments now to raise taxes or to cut services. So we need somebody who's going to be very committed, who's going to be able to comb through the budgets, study the budgets, and really look at all options to see what we're going to do in the future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, next question, Mr. Ramirez.
Good morning. If elected, what experience or education would you bring to the court on budgetary matters?
Me? Thank you. So I believe, my tenure in this area or in Socorro or in my life has been in education. I've been an educational person. I've done education 37 years. I was a community college board member for 2 terms and made sure that the community college, this is what we brought in. Dr. Richard Rhodes took us to a much higher level. He put in programs, we bought the community college. So what we will do is, as a commissioner, I will continue to work to better the environment for students that attend El Paso Community College, to provide the services for the Mission Valley campus, which is, bring busing to that area, which we, as a member, I did accomplish that, and also to bring access or better access to that college, which is now we're working with the TechStot to put in a paved road, a much better paved road that we continue to go into the Lower Valley. So in education, one of the issues that is dear to my heart, because I know what education is all about with my past experience of 37 years and as a board member for the Paso Community College.
Thank you, Mr. Quintanilla. Mr. Perez.
Can you repeat the question?
If elected, what experience or education would you bring to the court on budgetary matters?
Sure. Well, first of all, it was a great privilege to work for Congressman Sylvester Reyes in Washington, D.C. I've worked 5 years as a congressional staffer, where as a communications director, you kind of have to have your hands in all kinds of issues, whether it be immigration reform, education, small business. So it was a great training ground to learn about all types of different issues, all of which it is that are also impactful here in Precinct 3. I received my master's degree from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. So I think that experience with my academic background and my federal experience in the Congress gives me the opportunity to bring a unique perspective to Precinct 3. As I mentioned before, we're going to face some serious budgetary issues this cycle because the state legislature cut $27 billion. So the county's budget is about $200 million, far less than the city. And there's a lot of services that need to be looked at during this process.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis. Ms.
Well, I'm very honored and privileged to have, from my opponents, to be the one that has the hands-on and budgetary experience. I've been able to work as your UMC representative in a budget that is over close to $700,000 million, $400 million operating. I've had that experience, and also to be the voice for this community and all of the county on those budgetary matters, which led us to provide more services for the community, including extended clinic hours for our working families in this area. Second, I did work at the county, and like Mr. Perez said, Mr. Gandara was an absent commissioner, but I was a policy and projects director, and because he was an absent boss at times, it didn't prohibit me to move on and work on budgetary matters, on being able to provide the key elements, issues, and respond to the community. I was the face, I'm very proud of that. I was the engine in that office, and you know, to me, it's the best thing that ever happened in order to serve my community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question, please.
This question is from Mr. Perez. If forced to cut non-mandated services, which services currently provided do you feel would be the least objectionable to being cut from the budget?
And how much time do we have to answer? One answer, 2 minutes. Well, unfortunately, when we look at non-mandated services, the budget, the county already went through an election cycle, a budget cycle where they cut a lot of services. Now, just so as you all know, the county government is responsible for things like Thomason Hospital, the Sheriff's Department, Oaxaca Park is one of the parks that's run by the county. They also maintain the county courthouse and the county jail. Those are really part of the core functions of the county. The county courthouse, the county jail are the primary mandatory services. And during this election cycle, the county commissioners court had a very difficult decision-making process where they cut a lot of services, they cut back salaries, many folks were furloughed. So right now the county's already operating on a very bare bones budget, which, as I said, it's about $200 million. Right now, El Paso County has one of the worst levels of uninsured people here in El Paso. 1 in 3 people here in El Paso are without health insurance. And Thomason Hospital is a critical avenue for people to come and get health care. So there's a lot of pressure right now to raise taxes on homeowners or to cut back services that are essential to low-income families. So I can tell you it is that right off the bat, healthcare would not be something it is that I would cut as a county commissioner. There's also mental health services. It is that also fall under the jurisdiction of the county. That's another thing it is that we've got to be very cognizant of and we really can't cut. So as county commissioner, I intend to do all it is that I can to preserve those services that are critical, particularly for low-income families that don't have health insurance, that depend on these critical services like Thompson Hospital, clinics, and the mental health services provided by the county for their health care.
Ms. Oaxaca.
There's a lot you can do in order to be able to ensure that those non-mandated services, and one of them is it's key to work with interlocal governments in certain areas. I'll give you an example, parks. Parks is very important to the rural community and to any community in El Paso County, and it's worked fabulously when you have the county putting together the construction like it has in certain areas of the rural community, and then you have a partner like a school district to take over the maintenance and operation. So that's how you can do it. A lot of it also, many of those services that, whether it be nutrition centers or anything else that people might say, well, that could be heavy to our taxpayer, it all consists of consolidation and interlocal government. And you need a commissioner that is willing to work with those bodies of government, that is willing to understand what the community needs and is willing to understand what that entity needs in order to be able to ensure that none of the services get cut. One of them is
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quintanilla.
Thank you. You know, I think the question was what mandated programs would we continue to support? Is that correct?
Yes, what non-mandated services?
Non-mandated programs that we need to support. You know, one of the non-mandated programs that we have in this county is a nutrition center, or nutrition program that we have in the county. that is providing nutrition to some of those indigent and poor people that are 65 years or older, people that are not able to provide for themselves. Your grandpas, your grandmas, if you have someone out there that go to the senior citizen centers. I know that the court has taken a lot of action to cut back on the funding for those programs. And to me, that program is very dear. It is a program that we need to continue to fund, no matter what. Even though the Commissioner's Court's number one function is to fund the courts, the sheriff, the jail, and those main issues. It's important that we continue to support the senior citizen centers so that our parents, our grandparents have a place to go to be able to play bingo, play and learn to use computers. I know that my wife is one of them that provides computers for those centers by working with the community college, and then they go out there and do the training. So we get involved a lot in that program.
Thank you, sir. Next question, please. Start with Oaxaca.
What do you see as the greatest need in your district that could be supplied by the Commissioners?
An economic development department. We need definitely a department, or at least a head person, that is going to work with commissioners and with the chief administrator and with the departments in the community, the stakeholders, in order to ensure jobs and retain jobs in El Paso. I think that for the most part, we all want to be able to raise the quality of life. That's a given. And once you raise that quality of life, what comes next? Jobs, good jobs for this community. And we have that potential. We have a new port of entry that's going to be pretty much inaugurated next year. We have the potential of growing just to the east. So most of those jobs that come in, and employers, we need to be very active and strong and assertive in order to ensure that they come in and settle in those areas. We need to attract that industry. We cannot let go of that industry, because I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose the young adults in El Paso to cities like Dallas and San Antonio. And that's what's mostly needed. Good paying jobs when you graduate. And not have you work on a part-time basis, like I've seen many students do it, and working adults, because we do not have, and one of the things that I feel is commuting as well. We have to be able to be close to those jobs. And that's the number one thing that I hear from everybody, employment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Quintanilla.
Thank you. As you can see, you'll pick up a card from the table in a while, and in the back of the card I have, which is that I will continue to fight for economic infrastructure and development, affordable and fair housing, government and fiscal accountability. Well, you're talking about fiscal accountability is making sure that your taxes are properly handled, that we don't go overboard in the amount of money that we're taxing individuals. Physical infrastructure, build better housing for the Lower Valley, attract individuals to come and build better roads, because when developments occur in the Lower Valley, they will bring to the valley, they will bring infrastructure, water, sewer, gas, and sidewalks, and paved roads. That is what good development will bring to the Lower Valley. So one of the major needs that we have out there is, of course, also the colonias, people that they need water, they need all the infrastructure in the areas, but by the same token, we have many areas that have developed. If you take a ride to the Horizon City area, you will see that development is taking place and is very well done.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Perez.
Thank you. Can you repeat the question, please?
What do you see as the greatest need in your district that could be supplied by commissioners?
Sure. It's very important to realize that the power of the County Commissioners Court is very limited. The county government only has the power to do things that the Texas legislature allows them to do. Unlike the City Council, whose budget is about $800 million, the city has the power to do things like, for example, you can't talk on your cell phone now while driving. You can't smoke in public places. You can't do all. The city has the power to make all of these laws. The county doesn't. So our authority in terms of rulemaking is very limited. With that said, I think our greatest need is strong advocacy, because the County Commissioners Court depend on good laws being made in the Texas legislature. So we need county officials, it is, who are going to be in touch with the community, who can effectively articulate the need to our state legislatures in Austin. Representative Quintanilla was the state representative for 10 years, but yet he has the fewest number of bills passed of anyone here in the Texas legislature. He had 5 bills in his 10 years that were passed by the governor. By comparison, Marisa Marquez, or Naomi Gonzalez, who was only there for 2 years, had 10 bills signed by the legislature.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. At this particular junction, Mr. Quintanilla can have 30 seconds to respond to your allegations there. Mr. Quintanilla.
It's very hard for me to understand from a young man like him, from El Paso, to understand and know the needs of the valley. He has never seen the valley at all. He's worked with Congressman Reyes. All he has done is provided papers to the media. And it is very important that you understand that this young man from El Paso has no vision at all. You can ask and you can look at the cable right there, and El Paso Times will show you exactly what I did in the legislature. You can make up lies, you can make up stories, and this young man, instead of getting into the issues, it's attacking individuals, both former commissioner and the people that are running for this. I don't think that's right.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Last question. We have one more question from the panel. This one will begin with Mr. Quintanilla.
Do you support, it's a little detailed, do you support the insurance of certificates of obligation to fund capital projects and quality of life issues without voter approval?
My turn, right?
Yes.
I support those issues tremendously because, one of the reasons that we do certificate obligations is to make sure that we have the money available to do the things that we need at this point in time. And those certificate obligations are paid with taxes. And they don't increase the taxes at all in many instances. Certificate obligations do bring in the funds that are needed immediately to do what is needed for the Lower Valley. Build roads, of course. In building the roads out there, we have enough money taken out of your paychecks by paying $10 for your registration fees, which brings in $6 million, and those dollars are not being used properly. So certificate obligations are great, bond issues are great, our quality of life issues that are going to be taken into consideration, and by taking them into consideration, you are able to use more money. So I do believe in certificate obligations as a form of government functioning.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Perez.
Just to clarify, we have 2 minutes to answer. The last time it was 1 minute.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's any time it is that you issue certificates of obligation. Essentially, what that means is that you're funding projects it is that are going to be financed by taxpayers. So it's going to require that eventually taxpayers will have to foot the bill. Whether it comes now, whether it comes later. Particularly now, as we've seen with the economy and as we've seen the state here locally, taxpayers are really pushed to the edge. As I keep emphasizing, the state legislature cut $27 billion without raising without raising taxes. The state of Texas doesn't have a state income tax, unlike other states. So what does that do? When the state of Texas and Governor Perez decides not to raise taxes and to essentially fund all these cuts on the backs of seniors, on the backs of students, as you're going to see it is that there's going to be a lot of pressure now to raise tuition at places like community college and UTEP. There's a lot more pressure on homeowners to raise property taxes. So whenever it is you have certificates of obligation, it's going to put even more pressure it is on homeowners. So I would be very hesitant to approve certificates of obligation without voter approval.
Thank you, Mr. Penn.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Wong.
Yes, I am a supporter of COBs, and I would be a commissioner that would definitely be in support of them. And let me tell you why, but not without community input, because you are the stakeholders. Because when you do COBs, it is for definite projects. And the money that is being targeted, or the project money that is being targeted, has to come with a return of investment. And that is important. So, for example, if we're looking at what just the COBs that are still unspent, and commissioners right now, we're looking at the sports park, we're looking at different areas that you, the community, want in order to improve. So those are quality of projects that are going to bring a return of investment for you, for your children in the future, for present times. But once again, these types of COBs cannot be done without your input, and that is very easy. A community meeting, hearing from the public in what is important, designing a master plan with your input, not just with the elected officials' input, is what is important and needed in El Paso. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, I believe our panel has finished with their questions. We would now like to open the floor for anyone who would be interested in asking our commissioners a question. They are the people who are immediately involved in your part of your community. So if you have anything about your community that you want to ask them about, please feel free to do so at this time. And the people in the purple shirts, I think, are going to have microphones around, so just kind of see if there's one available for you. Thank you. Yeah, Leon, that's okay if you want to. And anyone, just raise your hand and we'll have a microphone.
Does anyone have a question?
Vincent Perez. Vincent Perez, you said that you work in Washington, D.C. You came down here. Did you take a pay cut for that? And
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure, and I really admire that because, you know, there's very few people that does that. I love that you're young.
What's the question, please, ma'am?
It was just a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Well, on the question, and no, thank you for that. I mean, on the question of the pay cut, and I will say this, I think it is an important issue because of all the candidates, I think I am the only candidate here that actually will take a pay cut. At the Congress, I was making $80,000, and the county commissioner position pays $60,000. But something it is that I have asked of Chente Quintanilla is that now that he's been a state representative for 10 years in the legislature, he now qualifies for his retirement. And at the age of 67, now he gets to retire, and it's his second pension, because he's already a retired superintendent. Now he'll be a retired legislature.
Thank you,
so after
sir.
10 years, he's looking for a third office to run for.
Thank you.
To the tune of $150,000, and I just don't think that's right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Quintanilla, I tell you what, if we keep the personal comments down, we'll be a lot happier. Okay, thank you.
In person.
Do we get to talk? Or?
Yes, you get to talk, but go ahead.
Can I answer?
Yes, you can answer.
You know, it's important for you to understand. You say the young people, it is great for young people to come back and get involved in the process. I admire individuals that do that. But by the same token, we want experienced people that know what's going on, not people that have just been shuffling papers in and out of it. And I'm not sure if we made $80,000. I don't think taxpayers will be making that much money. I defend the issue that I've worked hard for my retirement. I've been retired from this college, from the Socorro Independent School District for 37 years, involved in education. I retired from the state legislature where I made $600 a month. $600 a month. So you can take that, and for the last 10 years, I've only made $60,000 for 10 years of service.
Thank you. Ben, did you have something there to say?
Absolutely. It's very uncomfortable.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Me siento así como que...
Yes.
But no, I want to tell you that I was affected. I'm unemployed by no fault of my own because of somebody, you know, it happened. But I can identify with a lot of families. But most importantly, this position is not about the title, the pay. It shouldn't be about anything else but a public service position in order to be able to be the public servant with a servanthood attitude and heart and voice and passion that the community needs. These positions should not be overwhelming by what you're going to get paid or what pay cut you're. Yes, you're going to get benefits. It is a job. And let me tell you, it is a 24/7-day job, 24-hour, 7-day job.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions from our audience?
Yes, I just got a question about the COBs you guys were talking about. I'm personally a homeowner, and I think you, sir, said you support the COBs and what the city and state does as far as building whatever you're funding, whatever you guys need to do. I just want to know what avenues that you would take. I didn't hear you say any that where our decisions come in by homeowners eventually getting taxed for stuff like that. If we never had an option, and maybe we don't even want it or don't care about it, and living in this community as a homeowner, like Mr. Perez said, that eventually we'd float the bill. I just, what's the avenues that you would take for that?
I believe Mr. Quintanilla is asking you.
I believe you directed to me, and one of the reasons that I agree with the certificate obligations is simply because it's an immediate fix for many things that are needed in this county. You gotta keep in mind that your parents played for your infrastructure and everything that they've done. Now it's time for us that are in the arena to pay for other people that are coming on in the future. I know it's hard for individuals to pay higher taxes, but I think the county is fastly growing. I think the infrastructure in the county has grown tremendously where there's more people now getting involved and paying taxes. Yes, you don't have an opportunity to say yes or no, but that's why you elect county officials, and you will have an opportunity to express your concern if you believe that your parents or other individuals that are coming should have a better system, a better infrastructure, and a better education for everybody.
Thank you, sir. The other two, 30 seconds each, Ms. Oaxaca.
Again, I reiterate, I think COBs are important if there's a return of investment, sir. And I believe that as your county commissioner or any public servant that takes this position or other positions and are voting on COBs has to have the input of the community. It is very important of which projects are important, which projects are going to bring the return of investment for economic development, for more hotel occupancy tax dollars if you want to go after a project that is going to definitely involve more tourism and economic development. So without you, no. You know what? There is no COBs.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
One of the things that's unique about El Paso is that we're very what's called tax-based poor. We don't have the Fortune 500 companies it is that Austin has or Houston has. And that's why there's a lot of pressure falls on homeowners, because we don't have a lot of the big companies that pay taxes that affect our schools, that affect community college. And right now, I mean, I'm sure as a homeowner you'll know it is that property taxes here in El Paso are very high. And homeowners really are kind of at the brink where they can't take much more. And I think we're going to get to a point where if we continue to tax and put the pressure on homeowners, that's going to affect our economic development over the long term. Because you're not going to have people who are going to want to relocate to El Paso. So that's why I would be very reluctant to do that without lots of input from the people.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any other questions from our audience, please? Anyone else?
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
Question to Mr. Perez. You keep talking about how you would change the community and everybody around you, but as a young person as yourself, shouldn't you be talking more about the young perspective? I hear Mr. Quintanilla and Ms. Dora talk about what they want from the community and for what they want from the young people and what they would do for the young people. You keep talking about the money you make and the money that you will make and the pay back with. What are you offering us?
Sure. And that's a very fair question, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer that. Unfortunately, this is why it is that El Paso is one of the lowest voter turnouts in the county, and I think the reason is because we have a history of politicians who overpromise and underdeliver. And as I've said, the county government is very limited, and they have very limited capabilities to do things like education, to do things like in other areas. I've gone door to door where I've heard people say, oh, well, these guys promise me sidewalks, they promise me streets, they promise all these things, but then they don't deliver. I mean, so it's like, I'm just trying to be as honest as I can about my capabilities as commissioner. I promise it is that, like I said, I will work very hard to advocate for our community, because I think having a strong advocate to articulate our needs, whether it be on education, economic development, to the people that do have the power in the state to pass laws, that's what I think is most critical. And I think as a young person, being a young advocate for our community, I think would be critical. And so I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but I want to be a strong advocate for the community.
Thank you, sir. The other 30 seconds to respond. Mr. Quintanilla, please.
question was, what do you have to offer to the young people? I believe that I've already expressed my concern as to what I need to offer. I think that we need to continue developing areas that make it easier for community college students to attend community colleges. You know, we have 5 or 6 campuses and a 6th one coming up in El Paso for the community college, and we need to continue building the infrastructure. Like I said a while ago, you're being charged $10 on your registration certificate. That money needs to be used for what it was intended for, not placed in the budget. In other words, it should be used to build roads so that you can come to the community college and make it easier for you and make sure for transportation to be available to all of you.
Thank you.
I will.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wong.
Well, you asked what is the plan? You have to have a plan. You cannot come up here and say, well, I will advocate and I will do. No, you have to have some commitments that you're going to fight for. And what I'm saying is, one of the things that I feel is environmental projects and policy are very important. And I've been there at Commissioner's Court. You have to tap the potential. Granted, we are an arm of the state legislature. However, your county commissioner has to work with other government entities and agencies in order to achieve. What have I brought to the community? I'll tell you something. There's kids that used to wake up in the morning and had to travel 5 or 10 miles to take a shower. Those kids are youth. They are now taking showers in their own home.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, at this time, I want to thank my audience. You all have been fantastic. Thank you very much. We also need to thank our candidates if they've come and listened to each other and listened to our questions. And they've done a good job answering, so if you would give them a round of applause this time. Thank you for their input. Also, what I'd like to do is to remind you that we have a couple of tables. There's one back in that corner and one back in that corner that needs student attention. If you would stop by there and see what